Hey everybody, Tim here with today's review of James Bond, movie number 18, Tomorrow Never Dies. So this is it. This is the first Bond movie that I ever saw. So if you guys watch some of my other reviews, like I've kind of talked about, like I had a very slow progress into James Bond. Even when this movie came out, like I didn't really process it. I was kind of too young to realize like this was a whole franchise and there were a ton of movies before this. And it wasn't until much later that I actually appreciate it. But they do say, kind of like Doctor Who, like the first Doctor you ever saw was your Doctor. I've heard that about James Bond as well. Like the first Bond you saw is kind of your Bond. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but for me, whenever I hear the name James Bond, Pierce Brosnan is the first person I think of, even if it's not necessarily some of my favorite movies, but he is the first person that comes to mind, probably because of this movie and the next movie, because I think I saw them about the same time. So overall, like this movie is kind of special for me just because I remember being a little kid, like I wasn't even 10 when this movie came out, and like I was just like, what's even happening? Like I don't even get it. So watching it as an adult, I actually have much more appreciation for it just because, like I said with the last movie with Pierce Brosnan, like we're finally getting into these 90s movies and there's so many actors that I recognize and appreciate and really like. So from the very start, this movie opens with Colin Salmon, who's a great actor. He probably the first thing that I saw him in was actually the Resident Evil movie. But even like now, he's in like Krypton, the series, which was just canceled, which is kind of sad. I actually thought about doing reviews for that one. So like he's a terrific actor. This is probably the first thing I saw him in. I just didn't realize who it was or know who he was at this point. And I think he's in the rest of the Pierce Brosnan movies. He's in this one, and then I think he's in the next two as well. And he plays the character of Robinson. So the whole opening scene's great with the whole White Knight, and they're sending a missile to blow up this compound, but they realize that a jet has missiles already on it, and it would just be this huge catastrophe. And watching Bond try to get into the jet to take off, because he has less than 4 minutes to try to take off and get out of there before there's this huge detonation. Especially the scene stands out to me where a guy like smoking and he gives him a light and then he punches him in the face and he's like, filthy habit, which is kind of showing like we are getting into those late 90s, early 2000s where smoking really kind of took a turn where at this point, if you smoke in a movie, I think it's instantly rated like PG-13 or R or something like they're so against smoking in the film industry. And so it just kind of like made me laugh a little bit that they have now changed from seeing like the Sean Connery era where he's just chain smoking to like, that's a filthy habit, you shouldn't do it. So I don't know, it just kind of made me laugh. I love the scene where he's in the jet getting choked and he ejects his co-pilot into the jet above him. Like, it was a terrific scene. Like, that was a really well done scene. I loved it. The whole kind of plot comes to the aircraft and... Let's see, there's a British aircraft and a Japanese, like, are saying, hey, you're coming into our territory, turn back or we're going to fire on you. And they're like, no, we're in international waters. What are you talking about? And this whole time, there's a stealth ship kind of in the background that launches the torpedo that has a drill on it. And it can actually kind of maneuver through the ship. It's really well done. And then we see Jonathan Pryce writing future headlines. He plays Elliot Carver, the villain of the movie. And I mean, Jonathan Pryce is great. Like, he's a terrific actor. He's one of those, like, I would love to meet him in person. Whether you go way back to like him being in like Brazil or God, what else? Munchausen or Pirates of the Caribbean, or even more recently in like Game of Thrones and stuff. He just seems like a genuinely like nice guy, even though he plays villainous characters really well. He just seems really cool. And this is kind of where the whole plot comes from, is Carver is this big, like mongrel when it comes to like television and magazines and newspaper articles and stuff like that, trying to get ahead of the news. And he's actually creating tomorrow's headlines so that way he can report it before it gets to us. And so, I mean, it's kind of interesting because those who can report news first are ahead of the game. So, I don't know, it's really interesting. They talk about how Bond slept with Carver's wife before they were married, although we haven't seen who it is yet, but you're like, oh, this, like, clearly some shit's gonna go down when Carver realizes it. Q at the Rent-A-Car Center is fantastic. Like, it's always great to see Llewellyn, and we're coming up to the end, so it's a little bittersweet. Like, as soon as I saw him in this, like, you can kind of tell we're almost there, and so I was a little sad. And I don't even think it's foreshadow, but they show like the cell phone and how you can drive a car with it. You know that's going to be really important later on. We finally meet Paris Carver, his wife, and she's played by the amazing Teri Hatcher, who at this point, I think Lois and Clark had just come to an end, which is a great series. I remember growing up with it, with Terry and Dean Cain and stuff like that, like long before Desperate Housewives. And so, like, as soon as she came on, I was like, that's kind of cool. Like, she was such a great, she is. She's still a great actress. Michelle Yeoh shows up as Wei Lin, who, like, I mean, this whole YouTube channel started because I'm watching Star Trek, and so I kind of forgot she was in this, and like her playing in Star Trek Discovery later on, like it's I don't know, I feel like I've come full circle because I'm reviewing so many shows and so many movies all at the same time. Like, it's hard not to see all of these crossovers, because like even Teri Hatcher like had a small part as a transporter in Star Trek The Next Generation in like one episode, so it's kind of interesting to see like all of these actors and how they kind of link. That's why I like to play 6 Degrees, just for fun. We like when Paris is killed in Bond's hotel room, it's really devastating, like it's really sad, and especially because she didn't last long in the movie. Like, I don't know why. I had expected her to last for quite a bit longer. And then, of course, when they're like, as he's like there, you can hear it on the news and in behind Bond, and he's like, Paris Carver, the wife of Carver, like, it was found dead in a hotel room, and it's very sad. Along with her was an unnamed male, and that's when you're like, oh, like, this is a future headline already. Like, this is the plot of the movie. And sure enough, an assassin shows up to kill Bond as well, who is a terrific actor. He's in like everything from Ghost. And it's kind of funny because he pushes the eject button and it's a VHS tape. And I was like, oh my God, like that's great. So I don't know. It's just one of those like nostalgia moments. Like, I'm curious for those who are significantly younger than I am watching this movie, like, are they like, what the fuck is that? Like, what's the box thing? Like, I don't know. I think that would be great. Watching them trying to break into Bond's car was terrific, where it like electrocutes them and it's unbreakable gas and there's smoke. It's basically the Batmobile. Like, that's what it is. Like, no doubt about it. Of course, he kills the assassin, so now we have the unnamed male, so technically they can still publish that headline. And then, like I said, for the foreshadow, watching Bond drive the car from the back seat was great. It was a terrific scene. Although, like, him, like, launching off the roof and then the other car following him, I was like, you know, if I was the guy chasing him, I would know to stop, but that's just me. I like how it drops the tacks. I like how it like refills the tires, and then even like to just go that one step too far, where like they have like the tow cable, and like it actually comes up with a saw and saws through the tow cable, which just, it was way too much. We see Wade again from the last movie, who I didn't really talk about him much in my last review, but like at this point, like he's basically just the replacement for who's the replacement for? You know who he's the replacement for. And so it's I don't know, it seemed kind of weird. Like, he's an okay character. He's like the sheriff from the first 2 Roger Moore movies are so over the top, and I could not stand them. But he is a much likable character in this. Like, granted, I know it's not the same person, but like they're always trying to do that American like connection, and they do a much better job for this one. Felix, that's the name. So he's almost like the replacement for Felix. And so, I don't know, it just seemed kind of interesting. I feel like after, like, what was it, Living Daylights, where Felix, like, loses his leg and gets eaten by the sharks and stuff, that they didn't know how to bring Felix back, and so they just kind of replaced him with Wade. And, I mean, he's not an unlikable character. He's pretty good. The whole, like, them, who was it, Lynn and Bond, like, diving through the ship was pretty good, as well as the skydive scene to get to there. I did not like where we see Carver and he's talking to Lynn and Bond about, like, oh, I'm going to write your obituaries right now. And he's clearly fake typing. Like, it just really kind of bugged the shit out of me that, like, there is no possible way he was actually typing on the keyboard the stuff that was coming up. So that kind of bugged me. And I realized, like, it was done for a fact, like, oh, this is how good he is. No, like, it was just bad. I would have appreciated it more if he actually, like, typed it out. Let's see. The whole jumping out the window. Oh, and then, like, where they're tearing the banner of Carver's face was kind of, it was a good scene, and then breaking through the window. Of course, there's a motorcycle chase because it just has to be. We basically see the Q equivalent of the Chinese industry, where Pierce Brosnan puts his hand down and the fire shoots out, and like he's playing with the fan and all sorts of stuff. It's really kind of interesting. Like, I would have loved like some sort of Chinese spin-off of Bond. I think that could have been really interesting. Finally, they board the stealth ship. Like when Carver shoots his own guy was really kind of surprising, because he's like, oh, now you got nothing. Like, what are you going to do? And then he kind of gets his coming, where they're like, give the people what they want, and throws them in front of the drill. And like, I felt like the ending like really closed really fast. Like, as soon as all the mayhem starts with the drill and the stealth ship gets bombed, like it just wraps up right away. But it was really enjoyable. I really liked this movie. Like, Jonathan Pierce plays a great villain. And I don't know, this probably stands out to me because it's the first Bond movie I saw. So for those who have seen this one, what did you guys think about it? Thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you guys think, and I will see you guys next time for The World Is Not Enough.